My name's Foxdrop. I do YouTube, streaming, and recently I do a bit of casting as well. I've been playing since 2010, and yeah, I focus on educational stuff when I do my stuff, teaching people how to do better at the league. Well, that's the attempt at least.
Hey.
All
Do I
right.
have time to Do I have any time to introduce myself?
Yeah, go for it, go for it.
Yeah, okay. I'm Vertigal, totally Verdi. Yeah, I do streaming on YouTube. Been doing it for 4 or 5 years. I quit League actually. I play nowadays different games as I mentioned already, and yeah, that's pretty much as simple as that.
Okay. So let's talk about this whole. This is a really hot topic.
Oh boy.
Does one person have less impact nowadays than they used to?
Ooh.
Is that okay? So to begin with, I think we can all agree that if we're going so far back as like season 2, season 3, that's kind of the case. Because back then it really was that
snowballing.
Snowballing was huge back then.
I loved it though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fun too. But that's neither here nor there. The question is it comparative to like 2 years ago? Has it gotten significantly more difficult to carry solo? Is that just, or is that the new excuse, that the new my team's holding me back? What do you guys think? Is it more team play oriented, and because of that it's like worse, or?
It's hard to say, but like I mean, I have never really been long time highest elo player ever, so I'm like my word is not the like biggest out there. When it comes to me, like I kind of like remember back in the day, I could even 1v3, 1v2 from a gank easily if the enemies were worse than me. But nowadays, I don't feel I can do that. Like I can't outplay the Setsuani Masahar gank anymore as well. But I think that's just like the result of many different patches and balances for the champions itself, and obviously my like OTP Ari. So it's probably not only the like single carrying thing. But other than that, I'm not really sure. It kind of feels
do you
like
think it's like based on the champions that are played nowadays, or is the game tempo itself different? Because you mentioned like Sejuani and Malzahar, and I mean they existed before as well.
Yes, definitely. But I think that's also nerfs to the Snowball champions. They reduced a lot of damage from the assassins, Ari, Zed, and stuff like that. Of course, they introduced like what was it, Duskblade later on and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure how it's with Zed and Talon and so on. But for Ari, for example, and I played other AP assassins too, and it was really difficult later on compared to before.
Sure. What about you, Dan? What do you think?
I think that it's. I don't think that it's harder to solo carry now than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. Like, playstyles kind of change, but if you're, if you stick the best players in the game, they'll reach Challenger with a 70% win rate, whatever. Like, they're not going to struggle to do that. And that in itself is proof that if you are good enough yourself as an individual, you can consistently bring out performances that will lead you to winning games more often than not. If it were a problem with the game, then it would just be flat out impossible to do that, right? Like
sure.
Even if you are like an actual god in solo queue. But what interests me about it is the way people complain. It's like people have been complaining. Well, whatever the meta is, people will complain about it. It's interesting you guys bring up the assassin stuff as well, because I remember that as well. Huge complaints about snowballing and assassins when you get one death in lane and suddenly the game's over. That's what people would complain about when it was more of a snowball meta, which is obviously a huge exaggeration, but it's like it is nowadays when people exaggerate as well, saying that it's impossible to solo carry. That's also an exaggeration.
The negative aspects is always going to be overshouted
exactly.
about, because no one's going to be like, yes, I love everything about the game right now, I'm going to shout about it from the rooftops.
Yeah,
it's
only
someone mad.
Different things to complain about, but I think you can absolutely solo carry, like 100%. You know, just depends on your attitude about it. You know, I think it's a bit different as a jungler, because the whole dynamic of playing, because that's where I have most of my experience. The whole dynamic of being a jungle player is just there's so many what ifs, because if you and opportunity cost, like if you go and gank bot lane and then something happens top lane, it's like, well, I could have been there, but I decided to go here. And it's, all that kind of thing of, well, what if I'd done that instead of this? And there's all that decision making. But as a laner, it's like if your top laner dies and you're playing AD carry, that's literally got nothing to do with you in the lane phase, right? You literally can do anything to stop that. So it's hard to say from that perspective as a jungler, you know, like what you should, like how you should be like playing the game and like the way you can be or should be solo carrying. Because back in the day, I used to do a lot of in like season 2 and stuff when I was like actually good at the game. I would just invade all the time. I was counter jungling all the time. I was just invading, and that was a better strategy because when you took camps away from the enemy junglers, catch-up mechanics weren't quite like they are now, and you would actually really put an enemy jungler behind.
Sure.
And you can't do that as much nowadays, but you can do other things instead. You know, like everyone that plays lane basically says better jungler wins, right? And every jungler says
every time. Oh, I say it every game.
Guilty.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what it is the jungle. People say that the jungle impact is just you gank a lane and then that's that, you know. And everyone says people also say better bot lane wins, but then bot lane says whichever jungler ganks the lane the most is, you know. So it's like this circle of everyone pointing fingers at everyone else saying.
Except to top lane, no one points to top lane.
Yeah, no one points to top lane. That's just
Do you feel like it's different like between say 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and in jungle specifically, because I have no idea how to jungle, so I can't really say.
Jungle changes all the time. Every year it's a different jungle.
Yeah,
and that's irritating more than it is. I would say it's honestly just more annoying than anything else because you just have to relearn stuff, but the fundamentals don't change, and the way you play doesn't really change a huge amount either. It will just influence the types of champion that are in the meta. And then, because the jungler's always been that kind of like, he's like Play-Doh, and then you just like shove him in some kind of like mold, and then he will have to play around that, you know. So, and that mold being whatever the meta is. So, if bot lane, like when the Ardent meta, especially when bot lane was just crazy. I mean, bot lane is still strong right now, but when bot was ridiculously like just disgusting.
Yeah.
Then you have to go bot lane, you know, and the jungler will just have to play around that, and then you're often stuck on like tanky champions because put all your eggs in the AD carry basket and you don't have to individually do anything. And you know, so yes, the game changes as a jungler, but it's like that for everyone really, like every role sort of. The only roles that don't get that as much is bot lane.
I feel like AD carry really doesn't
exactly
change that much really.
There's only like 10 AD carries, so
yeah, exactly.
You know, like it's difficult to change as much.
Mordekaiser bot lane notwithstanding, but you know.
Yeah, that's true. But that's just, we should not talk about that.
Don't talk about that.
Like Verti mentioned before, Juggernaut patch never happened.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
It was
the timing of that was the worst.
Just before Worlds, perfect.
Yeah, it was. I can't. Just unfathomable.
Was that the same time they did the Triforce thing? Like just
they
before
always
Worlds?
did that. They always do that. I think that stopped in maybe 2016, but it was like from season 3 onwards. I remember because it was SKT with like Impact and stuff, and it was like Corki, and then Impact's Jax, and it was like Triforce patch, a huge buff to these teams, and it would happen every bloody Worlds right before Worlds. Triforce gets buffed.
It was very frustrating. I mean, if you didn't play a Triforce champion, of course, then you love it, but.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that a lot of because there's also the discussion that people are quitting League more than they used to. That was a very weird sentence. People are quitting League like at a different rate. And I think that has to do with the fact that so many people who started playing like season 1 or season 2, 3, at this point, a lot of those people are probably not going to be playing anymore compared to people who started later on, right? Because you grow up or you have jobs and you have stuff to do and you sort of move out, and then I get there's no statistics behind this obviously, but I get the feeling that a lot of people then see their friends leaving and get the idea that because they're leaving and they're not watching streams, the streams are not being watched at all. Because from what I can tell, like LCS and such are getting crazy good numbers right now, right? Like from what I've read, is that
the better than last year for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely up with best of ones.
And people are still saying like, oh, LCS is inconsequential, people aren't watching, when the numbers are like just keep going up. So I don't know if that's like gives value to the people saying that it's dying, or it sort of explains it, I guess. Yeah, but still, like as you said about like adapting in the jungle, it's probably a similar way where people are stuck in this season 3 playstyle and trying to use it in the later seasons where you're trying to solo carry every game with a certain method that's just been evolved to not exist anymore, exactly in the same way. Because obviously you can't do the Fortitude Potion Riven first, like level 1, go hard. That was fun. That was so much fun. But you can't do it anymore. It's a different game, right? But if you try to do that because it used to work, it's not gonna work, and you're not gonna have a good time. So, I don't know. It's some sort of similar to like vanilla servers in World of Warcraft, to where you can't really have that game back anymore. Maybe that's a shame for the people who liked it that way, but in a way, I mean, the game is always gonna update, evolve, and it's gonna get better. And Riot, contrary to surprisingly popular belief, are not trying to ruin the game. They are trying to improve it in ways they can. What do you guys think they're doing, like, good and bad right now, or in recent years, I guess?
Too many changes, dude. Too many. They keep pushing changes every 2 weeks, 1 week. Many of them are rushed. Some of them, like, you shouldn't always have 100% big band champion. Like, I don't. I mean, I get it. You want to test something out, but I think if they're gonna do like something huge changes, you have to try it out, test it out, like properly. Like, for example, Kai'Sa. Wait, let's be real. Kai'Sa, for example, I'm not really sure how they deal with her, but didn't they like give her a buff or something like that? Oh, this happened actually. Swain is better example. So Swain was released. Everyone said he was shit. Some people played him well after like a couple of games and so on. But then he got a buff, and next week he gets another buff. Like, people don't get enough time to realize how good he is and stuff like that. And then he gets 3 buffs in a row, 3 patches in a row, and he's overpowered. Like,
do you think they should like hire more
Slow down.
people for the balance crew, like to focus more on that, or how do you think they should fix it?
No, just slow down, take their time, and let people actually test them out and test everything out and see how the meta works. I think, like, as Foxdrop said, like, jungle keeps changing all the time. Like, back in the day when the like smite rewards for wolves and raids, people loved it, and I didn't really hear many complaints about it. And next season, rework completely again, and some golems multiply by 8 or some shit, and Fiddlestick is fucked all over again. And like, there's so many changes so quickly, and that's what I mean. It's kind of annoying sometimes.
Sure. So like, you think the game should like let it like settle and then see what's good and what isn't?
Yes, just slow down and do it smartly. Like, not you don't always have to push everything out. People will still play the game. You don't need to do it like every month, or like, I mean, you don't have to do it like Siege or CS:GO like every 3rd month or something like that. But like, every time when you need to do something, just do it. And if you don't need to, like, also one example, it's a bit from the further days, but remember when 6 was like super broken all-time pick? It was at the same time when assassins were really super bad. It was because, like, let's say assassins are up here really strong and 6 was really bad. But instead of putting them on level, they buff 6 2 times and nerf 2 times. So like, they keep. It's kind of weird way to do it. Like, 6 getting 3 buffs in a row, 3 passes in a row, while assassins get 3 nerfs in a row.
So you think like more gradual, smaller changes to get a better idea?
Yes, exactly.
Because an argument against that would be that what if they suddenly get a crazy strong champion, and they don't really want to do a heavy nerf, but if they keep doing, it's the you guys remember 5 AD, that entire
5 AD,
right? So that I guess that's an instance of them not really wanting to be too drastic, right?
That's too little. But that's why you have the test server for. Like, you want to test it out. Like,
sure, I guess.
And also, let's be real, 5 AD is not gonna do shit. So you have to use your head sometimes for this.
What do you think, Dan?
The test server is used for like bugs, and that's it. Like, well, and even then, that's limited in itself. Like, PvE, they don't take feedback from PvE as far as balance goes. Have you played on the PvE Verti before?
Actually, yes, I played some of the Ari reworks. Ari has kind of like 3 different reworks. I've tried them out, and I have given them what was it, feedback for every single one of them, and of course they haven't. From year to another on out.
The thing with the PvE is, like, if you play on there, because I do videos on the new champions and some reworks and stuff, the game qualities there are diabolical. It is absolute wank. You can't get any kind of like determination of the quality of anything from that. Like, I can't, like, if Lee Sin came out tomorrow and I played him on the PvE, everyone would be like, "This champion sucks. This is the worst champion to ever be." You know, like,
Yeah, of course.
you just can't get a feel for anything like that, and so it's so hard to use the PvE as you know, like test servers to like test different changes out, and they just use it to make sure that whatever they put out doesn't break the game, basically.
Should
I guess
they?
it's kind of, I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah. Do you think they should have like a rolling out the champion into normal mode, like a patch before they roll him into ranked mode, so people have a chance to try him out and sort of see? Because I agree, I haven't really played in the test server. It's a good mix up there. Pest server, I haven't played much on that either. But from my experience, it's similar to what you said, Dan, that it's chaos and not very high quality games. And it's not just because you're not playing in like Diamond Plus, but because people aren't really taking it that seriously, I guess. But if it was in normal and people could play on their own accounts and not have to switch and just sort of get a feel for it, and the player base, of course, is much bigger on a normal server, you could have that in normals and see what works and what doesn't a patch before you actually get it in ranked, because everyone knows, oh god, when you get that guy first timing in ranked with a new champion, you don't want him on the enemy team, and you really don't want him on your team because you don't know how it works. So that might give it some time to I don't know, equalize out. I'm not sure.
I think that's a fairly interesting idea, honestly. And when I hear that, my main reservations would be, does the player base really want that?
It's true.
Just because I think that for some people, and I would argue the people who are the most vocal about complaining about the state of the game and balance changes are the more competitive players, and i.e. people who don't play normal games mostly.
That's true.
And I would say that a lot of people, as much as they complain about it, they probably wouldn't go out their way to play this champion in a normal game. Maybe once or twice to see how it, just to, oh look, I'm playing the new champion, but not but they're not actually going to go out their way and be analytical about it and figure out how the champion works and how to play around it and all that stuff. Like, I just don't think people care enough. Honestly, they're just playing the game because they want to do their thing, and you know, I don't think they would go out their way personally. But it would be interesting to see from more of a from a balance standpoint, if Riot did release it maybe on just only to normals, like you say, a patch beforehand, and then they have so much data from that they can do more accurate tweakings, I guess, for the next patch. But I mean, at the same time, they kind of already do that. Like Verti mentioned with the Swain, he got released on 8.3, buffed 8.4, buffed 8.5, and then
broken
on 8.7 he was nerfed, you know. So yeah, basically he was really strong. So, and it's like they did that with normal games being Swain being enabled on normal games, Swain being enabled on ranked games. Obviously they just time on PV2, so they had so much data there of Swain and how he performs, and then it still took them 2 patches for them to really see the strength of Swain, because they were still buffing him after 2 patches, right? And then afterwards they were like, okay, yeah, he's actually too strong. It's like there is no good answer to make a fair way of like really really balancing something, because you don't want him to sit in the gutter either for like 2 or 3 patches as well. So
no,
it's right, the balance, and it's hard.
If there was a really, really good simple solution, in 8 years they probably would have figured it out. Yeah. Like, and everyone would be happy and we'd be living in a utopia. But unfortunately, there probably isn't a perfect answer that we're gonna come up with here and shock everyone with. But presumably, well, you never know. But presumably, there's advantages with this method. But as you're saying, I don't think the competitive people who get pissy are gonna go normal games. Maybe it would be therapeutic for them, but I still don't think they would do it. So it probably wouldn't have the effect intended. And another argument would be, considering it's the same thing as like people complaining about inters and flamers and such. If you count the fact that you're not going to flame or int, then it's statistically higher chance it's going to be on the enemy team. And the same thing with a new champion. If you're not going to do it, statistically it's going to be a higher chance it's on the enemy team. But of course, every single person is apparently an outlier, so who knows? I don't know.
Sorry, but one thing I actually just really confuses me when it comes to like. One day they discuss with the professional players, come up with Irelia, like they actually work with like one of the biggest Irelia OTPs. Like they work together with like people who really know about Irelia, professional top laners and big OTPs for the champion. And one day they release Zoe with, well, Zoe double, Zoe, so you know Zoe.
I know Zoe very well.
Yeah. So it's just really confusing how it works, and also for me really close to heart, Ari rework that just came out. It's just absolutely random. Like I mean, obviously, she was kind of too safe and stuff, but they completely just do unnecessary stuff. Like now she has a passive where she hits 2 abilities and gets movement speed, but you have already blown all your load and you already have like your dash and stuff, and it's really odd. And they just don't listen to the community when like reworking her. They're just like just there.
What do you
random.
think? What do you think is the best solution then? Do you think they should have like they should have one champion experts, like one OTP hired per champion, or what?
No. I don't think they should.
That'd be very interesting. Or like, how do you think they should do that?
I'm not telling they have to call me and stuff. I'm hard stuck as fuck, dude. I'm not gonna. But I mean, I've played the champion a long time, and I can give some suggestions, and they were actually really good in my opinion. But still,
I'm just thinking like as a general solution for the issue of specific champions being not in the state that people who play them a lot think they should be in. Like how would that be changed, or how do you think that should be improved?
I think they should do the same thing that they did with Irelia. I've heard that they did a really good job with Irelia. I don't know. Does anyone of you play her or have tried her?
Oh no, no.
Yeah, people seem pretty happy with her. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Wrong tech, by the way. She's busted right now.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, always every rework champion at some point becomes a busted, either from the release or after 5 buffs in a row. But still, I think they should do the same thing like they did with Irelia. Well, in the end, the numbers always get wrong, but still, listening to the top players, listening to the biggest OTPs of the champions, and you can't get it wrong. Like you have the players who have thousands of hours with that champion, who are a challenger and really experienced with every matchup.
True.
So,
I mean, like, if I'm gonna be a devil's advocate here, some would argue if they called me up and said, "Hey, Azoh, how would you like to change set?" I'm like, "Listen here, I have a list of stuff you can buff." I wouldn't be like, you know what, you need to nerf everything. So because an OTP would also be sort of invested in their own champion, right? So there's an argument against them asking OTP specifically, but I don't know.
But then you have to. Sorry. Then you have to realize OTPs also don't want their champions to be broken and 100% big ban.
It's true.
So you want to have the perfect balance, the 50.
It's true. I mean, but finding the perfect 50% for every single champion is probably pretty difficult. I mean,
yes.
In terms of like also, I mean, win ratios are not that great of an indicator, because the easy to play champions are always going to have a really high win ratio, and like LeBlanc and Zed and stuff, even if they're extremely good, they're not going to go past 50%. Maybe in a couple of years when everyone's used to them, but even then there's going to be new players who aren't. So
if they go above 50%, they need enough. That's what. Do you remember when Lee Sin got nerfed? Like, I think it was this season, maybe, or maybe last season actually. He got nerfed, but his win rate was like 52%, and I was like, yeah, someone like
that's crazy for Lee Sin.
He cannot have a win rate above 50%. If he does, he's not balanced, because that means that your average geezer on Lee Sin. And by the way, the average Lee Sin is guys. It's not. If you're average on Lee Sin, don't pick Lee Sin.
No.
So exactly that goes to show you that the people who, you know, when Lee Sin is played like Lee Sin should be played, then yeah, he's way too low.
No, of course, and that's. Oof, I wish you'd told me that before. It was the first time I had to jungle in like 3 years, and I picked Lee Sin. That's a mistake. That's a big mistake. But win ratios in general, I feel like they get thrown around a lot, and it's always like, if the win ratio argument is against you, you just say, well, you know, it's just win ratios. But if it's for you, you just point at the win ratio. I mean, it's hard to say, because you're also looking at every single. Oftentimes when people look at win ratios, it's every single tier, which that in itself is just really weird to look at, because, you know, looking at LeBlanc in Challenger and LeBlanc in Bronze is going to be, and then combining the two and adding Silver and Gold and Diamond and Unranked, it just becomes a weird mess of data that's pretty hard to get a conclusive view from. So only then you can see if something's massively broken, or you have to make a sort of determination that, okay, Janna is probably pretty easy to play. Let's say it's probably not the most controversial statement ever. So you can make a decision from there. But then you see that, wasn't she at like 58% or something not too long ago? Like crazy data.
That high. It's probably like 54 or something.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
too high regardless. Yeah.
Too high, too high.
So I don't know. Data, like win ratio data, has always been a very weird thing for a very long time. To like have someone who's good enough to read it and then realize that, okay, this is probably not because of the champion. It's probably because of the item, or it's probably because the champion is very easy to play, or because the champion is very good in this state. Like we talked about the Juggernaut patch, and was it Trundle like a couple of months later, just like massively powered, because he stole the stats from tanks. So it's like reading that data. I don't know how you can specifically, if you can get like someone on Riot to work for that specifically. I don't know. It's weird.
But yeah, now like what we have discussed here already, we have like the entire time been saying like, wasn't that champion broken that time? Wasn't that champion broken that's what gets really annoying. You always have that random champion after every patch, 100% big ban, and it's really frustrating. And then it's like,
But here's the counterpoint to that, Verti, is
go ahead.
The opposite of that is a state where everything stays the same. And there are arguments for, actually maybe we don't want a game where everything stays the same. If you're not buffing things and you're not constantly changing the game, because that League is one of the games that changes the most, I think is fair to argue.
Sure.
And because every 2 weeks they're releasing a new patch, and they release so many reworks and champions and stuff, like things are going to change, and they're often touching champions, like giving them little nerfs and little buffs, and then sometimes they give them too many buffs or whatever, and the game changes a lot. And this game's been around for what, 8 years now?
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. It's like it's one of those difficult arguments where if you have a game that's changing, you're gonna have times where things change too much, they go too far, and that's kind of inevitable. But the alternative would be where change doesn't happen a lot, and then it's like, well, does the game become stale? I can pretty much guarantee you that people would be complaining about that a lot. Where
sure.
And people probably, if the game doesn't change enough, people would find the optimal meta, and then they would start abusing that. Let's say that Riot doesn't touch they release a patch like every few months instead of every 2 weeks. That means you'll get stuck in a meta for months at a time. You'll find one thing that works, because given that much time, you'll crack the code, so to speak, right? There's millions of people playing this game. You'll crack the code, and then say Trundle becomes the best champion in the game.
God forbid.
Right? And then you're stuck with Trundle for 2 months. Can you imagine how much the community would whine about that? Because it was. Do you remember when Zoe got? I know Zoe, like,
ooh, Zoe.
Yeah, that's a bit of a taboo word, because it just, disgusting. But
everyone triggers right away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
yes,
but when that champion came out, one of the big complaints about her was that she was disgusting, but she was disgusting for a long time because they were hesitant to go too far, right? Because people complain when they're like knee-jerk reaction to things like, oh, this seems strong, nerf to the ground kind of thing, right? And that was so annoying to have Zoe as strong as she was. She was probably strong for, let's say, 2 to 3 patches before they did nerf her into the ground, and then decided to build her back up from there. And it's like, can you imagine that, but all the time?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like, that's the thing, right?
2 months is slow.
Huh. Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna like, they just kind of, it feels like they can't find the middle point. It's either Zoe gets 0.25% cooldown increase, or then she gets fucking half of her damage taken away. Like, they can't find the middle point. That's kind of frustrating every patch. Like, you're like, oh shit, this champion didn't get any, like, it's like a little slap in the wrist, but after that, next patch, she gets absolutely, like,
it's also like it's probably very difficult for them, if I'm gonna be a little bit helpful for Riot. It's probably very difficult because, like, I don't know how many items there are in the league right now, but considering how many items there are, how many champions there are, and all their synergies between them, and the fact that they also want to roll out changes to, like, they did an AP update, not like AP item update not too long ago, and they're trying to juggle all of this at the same time while it's synergizing with each other and trying to update so much. Like at some point, you can't really foresee how strong a champion is going to be. I sort of feel like maybe in the case of Zoe, you could have kind of had an idea that with her Q doing that much damage, maybe you should have seen something coming. But I don't know. That's a I hate Zoe. That's a different discussion. But
yeah, that's also one thing. They keep releasing like items a lot and reworking items. It's just kind of like aren't they like top laners getting like 3 more items again, like stuff like that? And like
in case of top laners, I think that's nice.
But sorry, what I have heard from top laners, I know a couple of high elo ones that they're actually like the top lane at the moment. Like they're fine with they can play with almost anything right now. But now they're forcing 3 new items to the game, and it's gonna again change it. Like I'm not sure how top lane is. I'm not 100% sure about this, but what I have heard that top lane is actually really fine and people are happy with it. But hey, here have 3 new items and it's gonna be fucked up again for like half a year. Like it's unnecessary. For example, also the jungle changed back in the day with the wolves and stuff. Everyone was fine with it. And hey, next season let's again rework it.
So I guess that's sort of the 2 points then. We don't want it to become, so as Dan said, we don't want it to become too stale, because then we would just find something that's broken and then use that. But are they changing things too much? Is a good question to ask. Like, if something is quote unquote working, why change it? Like, is it still to combat staleness, or is there something else behind it? Like, say we have a meta that everyone likes, which is never going to happen. Obviously, that's
obvious. Yes.
But for a small moment, for like a patch or 2, a certain lane is great. Mid lane is great. You can play anything you want, and you can roam, or you can have wave clear, or you can go for late game. Like anything works. Is it wrong to change that?
It would be wrong in my opinion.
Right.
Definitely.
But then
because the thing is, if one champion pops out, like if they finally figure out, hey, Anivia can actually do everything and it's the most broken mid lane, they can tune it down. And if they figure something is really awful, let's say Azoh is 30%, they can bring it up a bit.
But so how do they know that? Because we concluded before that win ratios are probably not a great indicator in general. And you're always going to have people who have preference in champions saying, well, for me right now, I love it. Assassin patch, great. Keep it like that forever. Like, you don't really have this omniscient god of the game who understands every role, who says, okay, now top lane is excellent. Every single patch, every single champion item, it just works. Never touch it. It's tranquility. Like, it's never gonna... So like, the practical question is then, how do they know when it's perfect to not touch it?
I think it's just more communication with high elo, definitely. And like, if professional players have time, like you can just simply go ask some professional player like, hey, what do you think about bot lane? And they will most likely come up with a really good answer for that, because they literally do it as a job.
Sure.
So, and also challengers who want to go pro, they also want to focus on playing the strongest stuff. Like, if you ask from a bronze, they're gonna probably say something like Draven is the most broken champion. They always play against Diamond, Draven, Smurfs. So yeah, it's not gonna be a legit answer. But like, people who really want to enjoy their role, to do this as a work, they will most likely come up with the best answer. And also, I think they will, like professionals and challengers, they know their game better than the balance team or even the creators of the games themselves.
See, I would argue challenger players and professional players as well, sometimes they don't know what they're talking about. Not to say like I'm looking down on them, and I do, but people, we've seen some examples of professional players coming out with these opinions that are just kind of strange. And I believe it's Cutie Pie who said about Doublelift.
Oh yeah,
he loves Doublelift, but he's as dumb as bricks. That's what he says about Doublelift because of his opinions on the game. And if challenger players, if it was as simple as, you know, let's ask challenger players and they'll balance the game for us. Firstly, Riot has taken on a few challenger players, some ex-pro players onto their balance team, on their QA team, and they do ask pros as well to about some stuff as well. Maybe whether they do it enough, whatever, I don't have the info, and whatever, that's complete subjective anyway.
Sure, sure.
But it's like challenger players, pro players, analysts, they have differing opinions a lot as well.
Riot's coming to take you down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the Riot police. Oh God, I said something bad.
Sorry,
There goes
continue.
another bot lane player.
They have people have differing opinions. You know, if you ask someone about the state of bot lane, you know, if you took, let's say, 10 challenger players at random, let's go crazy. Let's say all of the challenger players, and you ask them what is the strongest role in solo queue, I guarantee you not all of them would have their same answer.
No, of course.
And if you would say how would you change the game to make it better, again, all of them would have different answers. It's because it's difficult that they just have different opinions on how the game functions, how the game works, and how the game should be played. You know, and that's why it's, to add to what you were saying, Azoh, about how it's bloody difficult to come up with these, you know, who decides what is good for the game and how to make the game good, because that's a ridiculously hard thing to do when even the best players of the game and the people who are playing it optimally, let's say, right, can't even agree on what that would be, right? So it's like it's tricky, and so then I think that something that I find interesting about this whole what I see a lot of nowadays on communities is, oh, I wish we could go back to whatever, and then they'll say some like season 4, season 3, or something like that, right? But as someone who played in season 3 and season 4, what were they saying back then? I wish we could go back to season 2, season 1. You know, people are always complaining about, I wish we could go back in time. Things were better back then, and World of Warcraft was mentioned before as well. The vanilla servers. Come on, mate. Vanilla was
excellent. I will not hear any critique of vanilla in this video. Okay.
All right, but
I agree. Okay, if we go back to vanilla, people would have critique. Obviously, like things wouldn't work exactly.
That comes into this, and it's like these things were changed for a reason. You know, I remember playing jungle in season 3. The most the popular champions, like the Spirit Stone stuff, because that's something that gets thrown out a lot. I wish Spirit Stone was back in the game. Well, it was like Leasing, Kha'Zix. I think Eve was there as well. Elise, I think. Yeah, it's like, and then what were people saying? Oh, if you're a jungle, all you can play is Leasing, Kha'Zix, and Elise. It's like, all right, so that's bad. Now you need, all right, so we need to change the jungle. How do we change it? How do we make it so we can bring other junglers in? Actually, the problem isn't with the champions. Maybe it's with the items and the way the jungle is set up. Okay, so let's tweak that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one of those. It's like you're got one of these bloody Rubik's cubes, and it's like you don't really know whether it's you're trying to fix it around. It's like, okay, is it champions that need the tweaking, or is it items that need tweaking? Is it the jungle itself that needs tweaking? Or do you know what I mean? Like, it's so difficult when you've got all these moving parts and you're trying to make them all fit together. And that's why too much change or too little change, it's just so bloody hard to come up with something that's going to work for everyone, because you're never going to reach that point. You know, you're never going to reach that point.
So the golden question then is, how do you think they should do it? Like, how do you think they should do it from now on, or do you think they're doing it the right way, or like how could they improve it?
I think.
Sorry.
Go on.
No problem. You can go for it. But I think it is really hard, as Foxdrop said. I definitely like 150 whatever the fuck champions and 150 whatever the fuck items and so on. Like, it is really hard. They just kind of have to find, like, I keep using this word, but the middle ground, like, between the balance teams' ideas and, well, I mean, I didn't really mean that challengers have to do 100% of the balancing. Like, no, it's kind of
input from the
input. Although, you can like ask like the entire professional ADC teams, like all of them, like, what do you think about this idea? We're gonna do this to Tristana, for example, and stuff like that. But of course, they don't have to like listen to them completely. Like, double if once Tristana's E to do double the damage, fuck that. Like, you don't do that. Obviously, it's just a stupid idea. So there has to be like the balance team like can handle the numbers, and the challengers, and they can like handle the ideas and stuff like that. Like, they have to like work together, kind of. Like what I have seen in many other esports, like for example Siege, that I play right now. I'm gonna sell out here, but like that game works a lot with the esports scene, and it's mostly really balanced and stuff like that. Of course, it has less characters and stuff like that, but it's really nice to see a company work with that esport scene and try to balance the game as well as possible. So I think it's really hard, though. It's really hard. I can understand that. and we probably give them too much shit than we usually do. I mean, like, give them too much.
League is a really big game too. It's one of the
Exactly.
biggest, if not the biggest, right now in the world. So juggling that behemoth of a player base with all the changes and all the backlog and everything is probably pretty difficult. But how would you, Dan? How would you do it? Like, or stepping forward, like, how do you think they should do it optimally?
Well, just to piggyback off what you were saying before the question about how the game is really big and all that stuff, I think people's opinion as well, Reddit, Twitter, their opinions mean way less than they like to think they mean. You know, it's like the game is huge. You know, just think about it; it's massive, and there's always this thing called the silent majority, and it's like you can kick up a storm about stuff, but yeah, I mean, you're not even you're not representing the player base. You're just kind of representing yourself, and then yeah, it's whatever. So I think that's things will always seem worse than they are for that reason. But yeah, so like I wouldn't. I really 1000% am not qualified to give a good answer to that question. Like, how do you think the game should be done? Because I'm not. You know, there are people. Riot have people working for them who are good at it. You know, and know how it's done or how it could be done, how it should be done, way better than me. But as far as my uneducated Philistine opinion goes, I think that if League wants to be the kind of game that does have frequent changes, which I think it wants to be that. I mean, you're seeing that they release patches as frequently as they do. They're kind of, you know, making that statement in that self. I think we get 20 patches a year. I'm pretty sure it is something like that, and then you get into preseason patches. I feel like as long as they don't hard hand fist big patches before big tournaments, cough juggernaut patch, cough, then you know, then that's, you know, outside of things like that, I don't mind them doing as frequent changes like this and just seeing what kind of happens, because it does keep the game fresh. I mean, like as a jungle main, I'll use an example of Graves right now. You know, actually, I'm going to give you two examples of champions who are really strong now, and they both had two different journeys to this strength, right? First one is Graves, right? Graves was he was so strong in the past. He got nerfed quite a lot because he was too bloody strong, and playing versus a strong Graves is not fun because he just walks up to you and just bullies the crap out of you. Right. So he's oppressive to play against, and when he's strong plus an oppressive kind of style of champion, nerf the shit out of him, whatever. So he got nerfed. He was being crap for a long ass time, and then they just buffed him like 2 or 3 patches in a row, and now suddenly he's one of the best junglers, probably top 3 right now. Xin Zhao is another champion who got reworked sometime last year, maybe even a whole year ago now. That completely flown under the radar, pretty much. Like he rose a little bit towards the end, like end of season 7. But he was so ridiculously strong. No one was playing him. So strong. And then when he kind of fell off a little bit towards the beginning of the season, and then Sejuani got nerfed so you could actually play him again and whatever. But more importantly, he's just been sitting there waiting. Nothing's happened to Xin. And now he's also a top 3 jungler because people are realizing actually Xin's kind of strong. And yes, the jungle's changed with the scuttle crabs and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, as a Xin player, someone who abused Xin and almost got master tier purely off of Xin Zhao, not a master tier jungler, Xin Zhao jungler, right? I'll tell you, like, he's not hideously stronger this patch than he was last patch. And I also keep track on a lot of the play rates and stuff for my videos. Sure. And he was like the 3rd highest played jungler in Korea underneath Lee Sin and someone else, I can't remember, last patch. And now his play rate hasn't increased this patch. It's like Korea's caught on that Xin's a strong champion. We hadn't really caught on yet until this patch. It's like it's the same destination, top 3 jungler, 2 completely different routes going to it, and it's like that's how it is with this balancing it and a game like League, where it's like you can make these changes and kind of force someone into the spotlight, like with Graves, right? Or you can just sit around and then suddenly people will figure out what is the best thing to do, and what the best kind of way to play the game is without any changes needed. And that's kind
it'll
of
be an organic change to the organic path to the top.
People just realized that he was just really bloody strong. So if I were League, if I were Riot, I wouldn't really. I don't think they need to change too much, honestly. I would like them to just lay off the jungle for a little bit. Like, we're a bit sore, just let us heal a bit more before you kind of, at least bring some Vaseline next time or something like that. But either way, just yeah, they don't like the jungle. I've got a sneaky suspicion. This is my conspiracy, right? I don't have any tinfoil, so I'll put on the Subway wrapper I had for my lunch.
Right, nailed it.
All right, you're in costume. Let's go.
My tinfoil Subway hat here.
Someone screenshot this.
This is my theory. Riot is not happy with jungling. They don't like. They think jungling is not. They don't really. They can't get it right. They're not fully happy with the way jungle fits into their game, and they don't like how it works in solo queue. They don't like how it works in competitive. And I think what really sucks about it is the fact that solo queue and competitive jungling are almost like two different roles. They're so
What
different.
makes you say this? Like, where does this come from? Is it just like your experience collectively, or is it a certain source?
No, the concept really works.
I think yeah. I mean, to an extent, that is. They keep changing stuff about it. You wouldn't change stuff if you thought it was cool, right? If you thought it was good, you wouldn't change it. I think that they don't. It seems as though they're not happy with the player's experience as a laner when the jungler gets involved, because no one likes junglers. No one likes junglers.
It's 1v3 in mid lane all the time. I hate it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people wish top laners, mid laners, AD carries, basically, if they could remove jungle from the game, would they do it
absolutely.
properly?
In a heartbeat.
Hell yeah.
4v4, that's the game we want.
Exactly. No one likes junglers, and I think that jungling kind of has. People don't like playing around their jungler. Like, that's not a fun mechanic of the game, if that makes sense.
No, of course.
People don't want to play around anyone but themselves, and so to kind of coordinate with the jungler doesn't really happen because people don't want to do it. And then, of course, when the enemy jungler comes in and screws you over, you get angry because you're just trying to do your thing and this guy's coming in to ruin your party, right? So it's like, Riot does not like junglers, and then they can't decide what they want to do with them competitive either, because it's like, the competitive jungle state is just really strange because you're basically just like a tool, like a utility that walks around the map and helps set up macro plays for your team, but you're not actually really like another player, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes depending on the meta, but oftentimes with competitive, like the fact that every jungler is forced to go green smite, for example. In season 2, solo queue jungling was the closest it would be to competitive jungling, because you would buy Moby Boots, Philosopher's Stone, Heart of Gold, Oracle's Elixir, run around the map, and you are literally a support in the jungle. And I just don't think they're happy with how the jungle is and the state of the jungle, way the jungle fits in their game. I think they really don't like junglers or jungling as a role. Not to say they've got it out for us and they hate us. I just don't think that they're satisfied. They're trying to find how they can make jungling better for their game, but they're just not happy with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I get where you're coming from. Is this? Yeah, thank you. Now we know we're out of tinfoil territory right now. So, is this related to the skull crab meme thingy at all, or?
I mean, it's just it's your yearly jungle rework, basically. I mean, it's like, yeah, this is what I mean. Is that they, if I do have a criticism with Riot's rework specifically, is that it seems they always, I like the way they communicate what they're intending to do, the changes, and then list the changes. It seems as though whatever they're intending to do, you can ignore that statement because it's not going to happen. And I feel, and that might sound a bit harsh, but I feel like with champion reworks as well, unless they're full reworks like the Warwick rework or the Psalm rework or something like that, the Mage update is a huge example of that. Almost every single champion in that Mage update is basically the same.
Exactly, yeah, it's the same. It's just flashier in some areas.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's really changed, and it's like they were trying to bring out some kind of strategical difference with these champions, like a reason for them to justify the rework, right? LeBlanc, Annie,
Ziggs.
Fizz, Ziggs, all these
Vlad?
champions.
I think. Was
Yeah,
Vlad
Vlad's
part of that? I don't remember.
Fuck Vlad.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's unrelated,
but
but
they're,
fuck
they're
Vlad,
the same.
yes.
They're the same champion. They're basically the same champion post rework as they were pre-rework.
They just
honestly.
have a quirk now that sort of.
Yeah, and some of them, even then, it's like you have to play them slightly differently. But if you're playing versus them, they may as well have not been reworked. Fizz is a great example of that. His ultimate now changes his damage based on the distance you've thrown it. He's got that little debuff above someone's head, and then if you pop that,
Yeah, with a W, it does more damage.
It's a really smart rework.
Yeah. I mean,
but if you're playing versus that Fizz, you may as well be playing versus pre-rework Fizz. Honestly, it's not going to feel any different.
I mean, the
versus
LeBlanc thing is probably
think
the
it
biggest
does.
indicator. Like, we want to make LeBlanc slower, and it just became really awkward to play her.
Yeah.
I've really tried for so long to learn the new LeBlanc, but he's just so tedious. I'm really glad they. Is it the new old? What do you even call it? The new, the old new,
the old,
the
new,
old,
Old-ish.
the new
I don't
old,
know.
the new old LeBlanc, because it's
Yeah.
the new one, but it is the old one.
Yeah,
The new old LeBlanc is much better because it's the old LeBlanc. So yeah, it's good. I think that's indicative of the fact that it just didn't work. I mean, they keep doing this thing where they want to make assassins slower, but the thing, assassins thrive when they aren't slow. So it's just this weird concept of like, well, we want to make it so that people have time to react, but that's never gonna work. Like the thing with like a Xin Zhao or any burst mage, you have way less time than an assassin.
Yeah.
The idea with an assassin is you have the mobility to get into the situations where you can deal the damage. You have good, fast, efficient single target damage. But if you make that to like a mini game or slowing it down or making it like, well, it's going to be 3 pops and like 2.5 seconds between each time consecutively, it just didn't work. I mean, LeBlanc has been strong, but it's just not a good experience to play it like that. Because what happened was she got strong enough to where you could W, Q, wait for the passive to stack up, throw another R, and many times with electrocute, they just die.
Yeah,
So
this is the problem with assassins. You can't. The counterplay to assassins is positioning. It's not once you're in a fight with an assassin, you've already lost. Like you've already messed up. You know, if you're in a 1v1, if you're the AD carry in a 1v1 situation, oh, Zed's so broken.
Yeah, no shit.
You know, it pops me 100-0. No fucking shit, dumbass. That's exactly what he's meant to do. Like if you're a Zed player, that's how you make Zed work. The counterplay to Zed is not being in a 1v1 versus him.
Right. Because he doesn't thrive in... Sorry, what do you want to say something?
No, go ahead. So
Because he doesn't thrive in... Like, he thrives in the situation where he's in the 1v1, and he has the toolkit to get to the 1v1. But if you have a Janna next to you, it is tremendously more difficult to kill someone like that, even if you're ahead. So, it's all about that sort of playstyle, yeah?
can I bring another big elephant to the room, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
Okay, so voice chat. Voice chat.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy. But wait. The only way to deal with, for example, Assassin as an ADC is you want to fight against Assassin together.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you, when team fight occurs and Zed pops from the other side of the wall, do you just go to your chat and fucking, hey guys, there's a Zed on my fucking face?
them and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's the thing, but that you hope for the best. You're not like Zed on the left, Zed on the right. Like, I think voice chat would really make a difference here. So like, you have more time to react. You have more time to react as a team to that. At the moment, I don't know why Riot just keeps pushing voice chat away. Like, as also Foxdrop said about coordination with junglers, it would be way easier. You know, when you're CSing, you don't have time to fucking type.
No, you don't. You need to coordinate your lane.
Yeah, the only way to do it is with pings, and pretty much question mark ping is the only useful ping anyway. So, like voice chat is just so simple. If you don't like it, you can mute, but would make a huge difference. Like professionals play with it. Everyone, like every game has, every competitive game has it. Why not have it?
Like similar in Dota.
Right.
It's a pretty big discussion for a long time. I'm a proponent of voice chat. I think it would be a good addition. And I think this is apparently a controversial statement that I didn't know about. I think it's going to reduce toxicity in a way.
Yes, it will.
Because a lot of people don't really. I mean, I don't know. EOS is filled with people I can't comprehend in a million life. So I don't know if they would be less or more toxic. I couldn't say. But for the people who don't really have the voice or the sort of the self-confidence to flame over voice, they wouldn't really do it. And if they did, you sort of You could hear the voice shaking in the background. So I don't know.
Yes, exactly. But we have to admit, League is a team-based game. You have to work as a team, and voice chat is the biggest
I think voice
communication
chat,
tool
in
you
terms
have.
of what it would help, it would make the game quality way better. Because
It would make like the thing is, you have this one guy split pushing, but you have to type 10 sentence letter to the motherfucker that don't push too hard. Wait for this. Wait for this.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't communicate with ping. You can't communicate with your stupid emotes on top of your head or mastery points or whatever the fuck. Like.
It communicates everything you need to communicate.
Yes,
that you're better
yes.
than them. It's
Yes,
everything you need.
it would make everything better. It would make explaining what the enemies are doing. For example, enemy. I mean, you can ping the flashes and stuff, but you can still.
Yeah, voice. I mean, there's no argument against voice chat. Like, it's just more clear in terms of the information you transfer.
Okay.
What do you think, Dan? Are you for or against voice chat?
I think I'm personally for it.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, like you say, it's a team game. It's 5 people, and yeah, in team game you have to have team communication. I do think though that you can communicate everything you need to communicate with pings, basically.
You can.
Like,
it's just not as clear.
You can do it.
Yeah,
you're definitely not as clear, but you can. You know, there are downtimes in League where, you know, the minion wave's done or
Chris.
whatever, where you can just type little things, and with a ping, you don't have to type an essay. You can just type like 3 or 4 words and people know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty with voice chat for me is like, firstly, if you're a girl, you're screwed. Secondly, if you just don't want it. Sometimes I just want to play League and just chill out, just switch my brain off. Play AD carry, and you know, the role that requires the least amount of brains, then just chill out and just not have to worry about it. Put some music on, whatever. I don't really, you know, which ties into voice chat in a way that if voice chat is in the game,
you would put yourself at a disadvantage by not using it.
Exactly.
I've seen that argument before. I think
does that
likes
become
that argument? Yeah.
The expectation of you need voice chat, you know. If you're not in voice chat, do you? But that, you know, I've been playing a bit of Counter-Strike recently.
I was just about to say CS is.
Yeah, there's voice chat in there, and you know, I don't have to have voice chat on if I don't want to. I can just ignore things. I mean, I think it's a bit different in Counter-Strike because there's
callouts.
Exactly, you got to call like spots and stuff like that, and it's like. And things happen a lot faster. You know, you have like rounds of like what, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, something like that. Like they're really bloody short rounds, and action happens quite quickly, and you have to be able to call out. League isn't quite that fast paced, so I don't think there's a huge necessity for it in the same way. But I mean, it's why champions like Shaco are in solo queue. By the way, side note, that champion's been busted all of last year, all of this year. Ever since his rework, he's been OP, and no one plays him. No one plays him. But either way,
it takes a certain kind of person to play Shaco, I think.
Well, that's also true. But the reason he doesn't work in competitive, but he's one of the best solo queue junglers, is because you don't have communication in solo queue. Champions like Shaco thrive on chaos, and what's the best way to organize something and to get rid of the chaos? Well, communication.
Similarly, you guys remember Fiddlesticks in like season 3? Like one of the best junglers, I think. He was never played, but when he was played, he's still one of those champions who just completely can take control of the entire game himself. Like I like to say, Rumble's similar, or at least used to be similar, where one good ultimate just changes the entire game. And Fiddlesticks really isn't played in competitive, because if you can tell people, hey, you probably don't want to go that far forward, there's an unwarded brush over there, his efficiency just drops like a rock.
Like in solo queue, it would make a huge difference, because when you see that your stupid fucking Draven OTP is going a bit too deep, you can just
Do you think he's gonna listen to you?
Yeah, let's play. Yeah, true that, but still. Like the thing is, while you are typing "Hey Draven, Fiddlestick" in that push or something like that, while you're typing it, he's already dead to the Fiddlestick, and let's be real. So what's that would just make every communication super fast. Also, as you mentioned, that you don't want to use it, like you feel like just turning the brain off. Obviously, as I said, League doesn't need it that much, but you can just use it occasionally. Like 1-2 times per game when you need to. Like for example, I bring up Siege again. Sorry about that, but for example, I play like castles at like 11. I'm tired as shit, but if I need someone to reinforce a wall next to me, I just cut it out really quickly and just play like without using voice chat the entire game. After that, like those important little moments you want to use it.
I mean, it would, unarguably, it would change the game quite a bit with voice chat, because some champions would lose efficiency because of it, which you could argue you shouldn't have. I mean, I think voice chat I would really like having voice chat, but I don't know if it's the right move to add it, because it would change the game quite a bit, probably in ways we can't even foresee right now. So I'm not sure. I want to sort of round this off in a little bit, so I'm just gonna ask you guys 2 more questions. So, what do you guys think is the best and the worst thing Riot has done in recent years for the game?
Ooh, you go first.
Spontaneously, just like it doesn't have to be your essay on the League of Legends, but
I played this game too much, dude.
like a good and a bad chance. What do you think?
So I would say, I mean, we've said Juggernaut patch too many times, but that has been one of the individual patch timing was really bad. This might sound a bit maybe too recent, so too recency bias, but I think Zoe was one of the worst things Riot's done recently. I think as a champion design, I'm just not really sold on how she can exist without being a complete, like, really. She's one of those champions who I feel like is either going to be, if she's ever viable, she's going to be just bad for the game in the sense that on like a net gain / loss of how much fun you have in a game, Zoe's in it, all the way down. The only person who has fun with Zoe is the person playing Zoe.
Utilitarianism,
no one else
or whatever it's called, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, exactly. And so, but if she's not viable, she will just be awful, because that's the only way you don't have a champion like that in the game, is just by making her just crap, just so that when she does, because that's all she does is bubble you, put you to sleep, and then take off all your health. Doesn't do anything else.
From insane range.
She's like she's like a Syndra with stun and ulti only, nothing else. Like,
yeah, she's like a Syndra with it being on a Q. It's like, yeah. But for best thing, that's a good question. I think I would say that Riot's full champion reworks, generally speaking, have been really good. I know I kind of I was a bit critical of their the major reworks and stuff like that. Just the small ones, I don't think really change anything. But the people like Sion, people like Warwick, Irelia as well is another good one too. Like I think honestly most of these champions get reworked. I think they're honestly pretty cool reworks. They take a champion that's kind of boring and just like meh.
Very binary, yeah. Main or die, yeah.
And I think they've turned them into actually quite all of those champions. I mean, Poppy as well, to an extent. I think her W is a bit bullshit, but outside of that, she's better than old Poppy.
Yeah, better than old Poppy
design goes anyway. So yeah, it's like I think they're pretty good at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Except Ryze.
Yeah, Ryze.
We don't talk about Ryze reworks, okay? Just
See, he's the same than Jungle. Like they can't get it right.
But... yeah, honestly, it's fair. It's fair enough. They're not happy with Ryze in the game, so they keep changing. It's a good comparison. I know you're taking the piss. But I think very good comparison.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, sure. What do you think? A good thing and a bad thing?
I'm gonna take 2 bad things. Sorry, I'm a pretty negative person. Don't follow me on Twitter, by the way.
It's fine.
Let's say I'm gonna say that the team going to team based slowly but surely. I think there is still solo carrying, but it's a bit going too much there, without providing any communication tool. We have mentioned this already, so I'm not gonna go with that. But I think the second thing is, God forbid, dynamic queue and the communication with it. It was a good meme.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was just a
very interesting. Hey, I gotta give them. They tried. They really tried to push it. It just. And now we have flex queue. Works fine.
And solo.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why they just didn't want solo queue for some reason.
Yeah.
But the best things, I'm gonna go with Foxdrop here. I was kind of sad that he took it, but the reworks, they're doing really good job with it. I mean, of course, sometimes the numbers go wrong and stuff like that, but overall, they have like really kept the charm of the champion, but given them a more interesting kit, stuff like that. So I'm really happy with that.
Since you both said it, do you think like their general design of new champions are better? Like not counting Zoe, but underline not other champions, recent champions. The idea with them, do you think that's correct, or are they like too complex? There's just too much in it.
Some of them have too much going for them, but
Yeah, too
I
much.
think generally speaking, they're pretty decent, honestly. Kindred is one of the weird ones for me. Kindred, basically, as soon as she was released, it was in line for a rework. To me, that's poor. Like, you can't have a champ. I don't know when she came out exactly, but it was relatively recently.
Yeah.
Although, actually, because
I think actually it isn't as recent as you think it is. I think it's like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna look right now. But either way, like, she's a new. Well, I'm gonna use new.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. The new age
she's up
champions.
for rework compared to champions who've been out for like 8 years. It's a bit too soon, you know.
Sure.
And obviously she's been up for it. I mean, she has got reworks, right? But she's been in line for a rework. She's probably came out like, you know, she's probably out for a year when they decided they wanted to rework or something like that. 520, which is the end of at the end of 2015. So just over 2 years ago. But I think if I'll do something else then, since you've already stopped that one. I think they're doing more hot fixes now, which I quite like quick changes where you don't have to sit on a whole patch where things are out of line. If things are they've gone too far. Usually they're nerfs as well, hotfix nerfs, rather than hotfix buffs. But if they go too far, they do just bam. They just change it straight away.
Yeah, so I think that's just this is
cool.
clearly not the way it's intended to be. Just fix it. And that's the correct way is not to hotfix buff something, obviously, because that needs a certain
usually doesn't go well.
Yeah, exactly. For me personally, I think I'm gonna go with 2 turret things. I actually really like First Blood turret. I think that idea worked out exactly the way they wanted it to. Because before, back in season 3 even, it used to be that you killed someone, you pushed the turret, and then you just sat by the turret, didn't kill it, kill all the minions, wait for them to come back, kill them, just clear everything. But now you have an incentive to, let's get the game going, take the turret, move, and get something going. And similarly, I did not like when they had... do you guys remember where they did like... They tried to counteract... They tried to enforce a meta by increasing armor on turrets up until a certain minute. I really didn't like that. Enforcing or like trying to enforce a meta is really not something I'm a big fan of.
I would say, with the exception of killing the lane swap meta, I think that was a really good idea.
Sure.
When they made
that's
bot lane
fine.
tower weaker, I think that was really smart because lane swap meta is not fun. It's not fun. It was boring because the first 5-10 minutes of the game were the exact same, pointless to watch. Like that was crap, and it was. You're watching a competitive game.
Yeah, everyone was just snowballing the bot line, and that was terrible. But the general idea of enforcing a meta, I'm not a fan of that. Because as you said with Xin Zhao, it's kind of nice if it gets to organically grow. I mean, obviously they have to change something, and whatever they do, it's gonna be quote unquote enforcing a meta. But well, it's pretty thinly veiled in some attempts, I'm gonna say. And in those cases, I'm not a big fan because then it's not really trying to change the game up, just trying to make the game a very specific way. Without any real room for organic growth in that regard, I guess. But, all right, final question.
Hey.
Do you guys think Season 8 is going to be a good or bad year for League of Legends?
I don't play anymore.
But in general, even if you don't play, do you think it's going to be a good or bad year?
I can always come back. So Season 8, current season.
Current season, do you think this is gonna, when we look back in this new year's, are we gonna say, damn, that was a good year, or is it gonna be, oh Jesus Christ, where did we go wrong? What do you think it's gonna be?
I mean, the second half can't be worse than the first half. I mean, the first half was the one on.
What's so wrong with this first half of the season for you?
I don't know. It felt like felt like preseason kept going and going, and after that they just decided to rework Ari out of nowhere instead of like Fiddlesticks or something else, and they didn't listen to Ari community at all, and it was fucking shite random.
I seem to remember you tweeting the Ari community were you didn't like what they were saying about it because you were saying like they didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, I'm not too good friends with Ari Reddit, but I think the I think like when it comes to reworking, like mini reworking Ari, it feels like the Ari mains always get the coin flip right when it comes to riot balance. Like it isn't the worst thing ever. Like this rework is not bad, but it's so random. Like it's just you have so many champions that need it. Like as an Ari OTP, I don't mind some good nice changes, but then I realized it's like they just kind of randomly change champions that don't need it, and it's just kind of I got tired of it. It's just slowly but surely after many seasons of it, I just don't like it anymore, and not a fan of it. Plus that.
So outside of Ari, do you think like, because I don't play Ari, so I don't actually know if it's been bad or good or the last couple of years even. Outside of Ari, do you think it's going to be a good year or a bad year for League? Like
Yeah,
competitive and solo queue?
let's stop talking about Ari. Yeah, I think. I don't know how I haven't played in 2 months, so it's pretty hard to say. But I think on esport level it will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think Riot has always done decent work with the esport, except for the random changes before tournaments. But I think solo queue wise, what I have read from Twitter, that's the only resource I have, dude. Because I don't play anymore.
That's a risky business, man.
That's a risky business.
I was like, Twitter's like the most positive site ever. I don't know.
I know, right? I don't know. It's hard to say. You guys go for this one. I can't really say.
No, I agree. It's hard to say. That's why I'm asking. It's a good question. What do
I
you
don't
think,
play
Dan?
anymore.
I would like to see. Personally, I'm not a fan of playing around bot lane. I think that for a good part of a year or two, that's kind of been the case. And I would like to see a bit more carry potential put on, just a bit more spread out across the map. Because I know I was actually talking to another top lane player about this, and he put it in a really good way. He said that the trade-off between ganking top and bot is that top is easier to gank, but the impact of a single gank is much less than if you did it bot lane. So that's kind of like where the trade-off is that if you can get a bot lane gank going, perfect, but it's harder to do that. And that's why you can go top side. But I would like to be able to play around more lanes that aren't bot lane, and because I'm just not a fan of putting my eggs in an AD carry basket, because it's just kind of annoying, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like if you're there are some things that confuse people if you think about humanity, life after death. How do you comprehend such a thing? Difficult.
Sure, this is basically League, yeah.
AD carry mains, a game where they're going to win, which they're not carrying. How does that one work? Can't comprehend that one. So I'd like to move away from that kind of. But that, I guess that's just me being a salty jungle main. But no, I think that season 8, honestly, I'm biased in this because my view on it is that League really hasn't changed as much as people think it has, but people are just like they've been playing the same game for like 5 or 6 years, and like you're just a different person, mate. Like everyone, especially because they're so young, a lot of these people are like 18, 19 talking about the game, and it's like, dude, when you started first playing, you were basically fresh out your mum's womb. Of course, you're going to have different views on it, and you're going to think about it differently. You change as a person, and can you imagine playing a game for that long and like still playing that game? Like it's not unfathomable that you would just lose the magic of that game, So, but for me, I'm just like, yeah, the game's just more or less stays the same, and you just play the game. If you play well, you win, more or less. More if you play well, you
win more than you lose. Yeah, of course. I mean, some games you can't carry. That's just
absolutely
the case, but most of them you could have done something better.
Yeah.
It's not really easy to convince yourself of the fact after the loss, though, but
Yeah, no, yeah, of course, absolutely. It's very frustrating, but it's just the way it is. So I think, honestly, Season 8 is going to... It's hard to say because...
Sorry, wait, you cut out. Season 8 is going to be what?
Fine. I think that it's okay, but then again... It's hard to say what's going to happen in the next half year. I think so far it's been fine. Like, honestly, it's yeah, whatever.
Okay. I think I have played way less than I normally play because of school and stuff, but so far I actually don't notice that much of a difference. It's probably because I don't play so much, but from what I can tell, it's just similarly to how it's been before. I still miss the old days, but that's probably wouldn't be very fun if it was the way it was back then. I mean, similarly, do you guys remember supports in like season 2? They did not as much as they do now. Like, playing support was probably one of the most difficult roles back then in terms of being efficient with what you had, because you had so little to be efficient with. Like, the best supports, they didn't end the game with like 2 completed items. It was just like wards, and then consumables all across the... But so I don't know. Maybe if we went back, it wouldn't be as fun as I thought it was. But completely unrelated tangent, vanilla is still the best. But I think it's going to be a fun... I think it's going to be an okay year. From what I can tell, esports seems to be... Sorry, what?
No, keep going.
Esports seems to be doing just fine. I wish it would be more, I don't want to say interesting in terms of the picks, but interesting in sort of in terms of the picks, because I just want to see some more assassin picks in mid lane. That's all, because it's shaping around the same picks, and that's not bound to season 8. It's been the same for like 4 years with that. They find the best picks and they go with them, obviously.
But you saw a lot of Yasuo in MSI. I thought
that was so good, dude. I was so hyped for those games. And Caps, beautiful.
Yeah, Caps was great. Yeah, that's nice.
That's what I want to see, actually. Like, I miss the times when you see these pocket picks. I mean, you still see them occasionally.
Yeah.
But, for example, watching Worlds, where you see Oriana versus whatever, Talia, every game, 30 games in a row. Like, you want to see, I want to see Froggen pick Anivia. I want to see someone play whatever the...
Did you watch EU Masters?
Yeah,
did you watch any of that?
No, actually.
It was good. It was good.
Firstly, they had some great casters in there. And secondly...
Wait, did they? Who casted that? I don't remember.
Just some
did Froggen play him?
Yeah, and he played him like, I think he got 2 games on him, and then he got banned for the rest of the tournament.
That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see, like these pocket picks and interesting picks.
Yeah, it was great.
Also,
you do see Anivia being competitive as well. Like, she's I know
she's getting better. Yeah, sure.
For a specific example, but I think personally you see a bit more, like, for example, using the MSI, because that was the most recent international tournament. Uzi, right? I don't know if you watch much MSI, but Uzi RNG's AD carry, best AD carry in the world, arguably best player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The meta developed so much that during the state of the tournament, during the progress of the tournament, they were first picking his AD carry every single game, and it was whatever he wanted to play. And it happened to be like Ez. He would pick Kaiser. You had to ban that away from him as well. Like, yeah, he was. It's just that thing where, to me at least personally, I look at that and I think, yeah, this guy is so bloody good. He's playing versus the first seed out of Korea, by the way, right, in the finals. This guy's so good that he if you don't triple ban his champion pool, he will first pick, complete blind pick, obviously, his AD carry, and he will 1v9 with it. And to me, that's like, can you get more of
insane, yeah.
Can you get more of a solo impact in a game than seeing that versus the #1 seed out of Korea? Personally, I think that to see that's
are you meaning that it's sort of indicative of the fact that you can solo carry, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that it's possible to do that.
It's true. I mean, then again, we're not Uzi or Apto. Like,
no,
the average person is. I mean, I wish, but the average person is not going to be.
It's possible.
It proves that it's possible. Sure. No, it does prove it's possible. Like, and the fact that elo boosting is a thing means that it is possible to solo carry, obviously. But for the average person, it is, I think, unarguably more difficult nowadays than a couple of years ago. And well, we've been over this for better or worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's have good hopes for the future in terms of League of Legends. And
do you mind if I give about one suggestion?
Absolutely, go for it.
Please. Champion select report or 3 dots per day or something, please. It's just like, I think the community, like, I don't have data or anything, but I think the community has gone a little downwards. I don't know if it's the L9 memes or something that makes people happy, but
EU West,
like I think it's EU West only, but still, I think it's not fun to get some angry fella in your game and you have to deal with it for 15 minutes. That's kind of like
select hostage taking.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, and if you have it like 2-3 times in a row or even in a day, it's just really frustrating. It's not fun like that. Like, as a streamer, you want to have fun, for example. I mean, to be honest, as a gamer, you want to have fun when playing video games, even if it's a competitive one. If you have people ruining it and you don't have any tools against it, and you get the same guy in the next game, even though you report it as a team, it's it's not fun. It's frustrating, and that's kind of one thing also that really just made me stop playing the game. And I wanted to play games where I actually can like 100% solo carry, because you know that one guy, that one Draven main who keeps running down mid. It's
frustrating. I mean, we touched upon this before with statistics. Like, it's technically more likely it's going to be on their side. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. And with that final suggestion, we're going to call it here. Thank you guys very much for watching. And I'll put the links for these two over there, these two gentlemen's channels. And yeah, take care.
Peace.